The interpersonal skills of the millennials and whatever the ones that came after the millennials are pretty piss poor because they've grown up on computers, right? Now those guys are going to be intellectually giants compared to the cocksuckers that are going to go to school now. One of the new sections that we've added to the seminar, absolutely, but it has become obvious to me during this corona, I call fiasco, not because there's a lot of people that think there is no, it doesn't really make and see, that's what the kids don't understand. Whether there's a real corona or not, there are people dying, and the world's in a panic. So perception is reality. Can we keep the mic's ringing, or am I ringing? And that's one of the symptoms of corona, ringing in your ears. The perception is reality, kid. So it doesn't really make a shit. So when I hear this pissing and moaning about, oh, it's a Trump conspiracy or it's a fucking, it doesn't make a difference. Perception is reality. And what bemoaned last night, off and on, is that what this COVID has brought to light, and which is underlined and validated, underscored, or whatever word you want to use, is that people are weak. And when I call people cunts, I mean cowards. And that's why I call you cunt. And that's why I call you snowflake, because you melt under pressure. And this COVID, for real or not real, has put a lot of pressure on people. I'm just listening to the news this morning. If I ever want to feel good about myself, I listen to the news. I listen to all of the whining cunts. You know how many, and I was bitching about yesterday, the Brits whining about they lost 400 pounds because of the prepaid holiday, some amount. Well, I was making fun of that in 1981 when I first came, because I couldn't understand. We were trying to schedule in our diaries, as they say here, schedule in our diaries a meeting during the summer of '81, just before Princess Di married your future king. That's when I got, about 5 weekends before that. And it was like pulling teeth without anesthetic getting somebody to change a fucking holiday. I didn't even know about pre-booked holidays till that summer. I didn't know that was possible. And some of the pre-booking, I mean, you can do 1 or 2, 3 years in advance. Sally and I were talking about it yesterday. Between the two of us, growing up till we left home, how many holidays, I asked Sally, had you been on? What do you think she said? 1. She went on a pre-booked holiday to Tenerife, of all places, with her mom. 1! And then I thought, how many have I been on? 1, to Las Vegas. My father was a cop, and they used to get free complimentary tickets. The cops and firemen to go to Vegas in the 50s. And this is before Vegas really boomed, and before Atlantic City, and before all the other casinos. So Sally and I have been on 1 holiday each growing up. I went because my dad was a cop, and we got free tickets, and we were at the Hacienda Hotel, which isn't what it was on the Strip. It still is on the Strip. It's been torn down now, but it wasn't one of the main ones. I don't know anybody that's been on less holidays than Sally and myself, and yet that's what they're whining about. But what I emphasized last night is it makes it better. I personally think this is going to last 5 to 10 years, and I personally think certain aspects of our life are never going to go back. Never, ever, ever. I predicted in March, and I predict again today, between 25 and 40% of the businesses that existed on December 1st, 2019 will not exist in 2023, 24. And unfortunately, some of you guys are in those businesses. Now, many of you that have your own business, all you really do is bought yourself a job. That's all you've done. You can make plus or minus 10 or 15% of what you're making now, working for somebody else, and not have the headache of having an employee. They took a survey in 1st of April. How many people wanted to work at home when Corona's over? 31. And then they took the survey again just a few days ago. How many people want to work at home? 53. If right now in America, we're losing about $25 billion a month in revenue, productivity, supposedly $5 billion. I contend we're losing between 5 and 10 more billion because of your lack of productivity. Because if you think you work is hard, now there's the odd person, there's the anomaly, there's the person in the standard deviation from the mean that's in the top 1%, half like myself. But for the most part, you don't work. Yesterday when I talked to two of our children who are working at home, they're middle management, and I think I mentioned that they were told that they're not going to come back till January. If then, they're going to be complete divisions. Now what happened? The spiral is unbelievable. But I'm telling you all this not to scare you, but to reinforce how good it is for us. Now when you go to Harvard, there's going to be an asterisk by the Harvard degree. It's like 15 years ago when the guy broke Babe Ruth's home runs. I forget what his name was. He beat him by 10 or 15 home runs or whatever it was. But there was an asterisk because he was juiced, anabolic steroids, so he was juiced. So all the records subsequent to that were juiced. Well, for those of you that in the future, going to Oxford, Harvard, the schools that you don't have to explain about, it's not going to be the same. How can you possibly justify paying $100,000, $200,000 for an education that you're doing that on your laptop? I used to make fun of Open University when I first got it. Everybody know what Open University is? I didn't even know that. But it was a lazy man's way to get a fucking degree. The Brits figured it out. Well, now everybody's going to be Open University. Now, if you've got an Oxford Mon and an Open University Mon applying for the same job 5 years ago, who are you going to pick? No question, right? Now everybody's going to be Open University. I'm not taking anything away. There's certain people, a lot of people can't do anything else other than go to Open University. I'll be with them. But all this underlines why we have the world by the ass. The interpersonal skills of the millennials and whatever the ones that came after the millennials are pretty piss poor because they've grown up on computers, right? Now those guys are going to be intellectually giants compared to the cocksuckers that are going to go to school now. And what about, okay, you're going to homeschool your kids. Now you're as thick as two short planks. You got an 80 IQ. How's that going to bode for your kids? Because homeschooling is a function of who teaches them at home. In your particular case, most of your parents were thick shit. 3 or 4 of you had professors, and look at how you turned out anyway. The world is fucked. It has a permanent enema up its ass. And for those of you that don't take advantage of it, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're going to commit fucking suicide. Metaphorically, you can't do that, because some people do commit suicide. You have no idea what an advantage. When we start talking about the cases of the kids that have completed deals since Corona, you will not fucking believe. Since the meatheads that were here in March. We got millionaires already since March. And what the fuck have you been doing? You have no idea what an advantage. And for those of you that are blessed with some scale skills, or some interpersonal skills, and there's not too many of you in the room that have it, you may think you do. But I told you in March, I said in February, and I've been saying for the last 27 plus years, if you have 5% of the skills that I have, you're a billionaire. 5%. Now you don't even need 5%. You need 1% because there's even less competition. I talked to one of you who fancies himself a cold caller motherfucker. You're 2,000 calls away from being a millionaire. And we're going to show you some studies. But making cold calls, I know a couple of you think it's an easy. I've been doing it for over 50 years and it's not easy for me. So how is it easy for you? It's not making a cold call and them hanging up on you. Leadership is me getting you to do what I want you to do when I want you to do it. Not when you get off your dead ass and decide to do it. And that's what QLA is, and the system and the template. Last night you saw, let's start with the founder, right? Founder. What's the takeaway about the founder? Yes, sir, in the back. Oh, So
the biggest takeaway for me was that you don't have to be an expert, because McDonald's brothers were the experts and they built perfect restaurants, but Ray Kroc used them and build the...
Operative word, use them. What have you been taught all your life by your parents? Be nice and don't use people, right? Continue.
Yeah, so he used them and he built business without any knowledge and any skills. And when he was selling the milkshakers on the beginning, milkshaker. On the beginning, he was bad at selling. He couldn't sell anything, but when he felt passionate about McDonald's restaurant, he suddenly became a great seller.
Nobody in this room is ever going to be a great seller because you're all too old. The skill sets passed you by. You can be. You don't have to be a great salesperson to make this fucking thing work. All you got to do is open your fucking mouth and read the script. You're going to listen to a Hungarian gal and a French gal that said, in the beginning, I did not follow the scripts because I thought I was smarter than Mr. P. But then when I failure after failure, I followed the script, and funny enough, they work. You won't follow the scripts either, so don't smile, asshole. I've been doing this 27 years. I know one of you is going to follow the scripts from day one. One of you. Okay, anything else? Any other takeaway? Yes, sir.
If my competitor was drowning, I would grab a hose.
So you're fucking right. You step on his fucking throat. Thank you. Ray Kroc was an asshole. Extraordinaire. First-class prick. And what have you been taught all your life not to be, right? And you wonder why it's so hard. The barrier to entry to this model is low. But the emotional barrier to entry is high. The physical, doing the shit, following the steps. 7 steps. What the fuck? Scripts, they tell you the words. But the emotional barrier is a high motherfucker because you've got 45, 51, 38, 29 years of training, poor training. I see on YouTube all the time, well, if I have to be ruthless, I don't want to be rich. Fortunately for you guys, almost everybody would rather be poor than not be ruthless. But if you can't get tough, you're going to be writing in a blog a year from now, QLA didn't work. And what you should write is, I couldn't make QLA work because I didn't follow the steps. That should, but you won't do that because all your life you haven't been accountable, so you don't want to be accountable now. Ray Kroc, brilliant guy, an asshole. What else about the founder? Yes. This may be too sophisticated a system for these kids. I told you it was too fucking hard because they're all dipshits. Okay, go ahead.
Persistence and Persistence and determination, genius and
Crap, you fucking A right. In 1993 at the Harvard Club, I was privileged to speak there. I had just been doing seminars a few months. And they asked me, Mr. Pena, what do you attribute your success? And they said, brains or balls. And I didn't even think about it. Immediately off the tip of my tongue, I said 50. In 1997, I was asked back to the Harvard Club to speak. Almost the same CEOs. The only difference is this time on the dais, Ted Turner, not one part of it. And I changed it to 90-10, 90 ball 10. And now I say 99-1. And you've already heard me say times, the more education you have, the harder. If you're an accountant, a lawyer, a medical doctor, a PhD, a rocket scientist, any of that kind of shit, because this is not linear. This model is not, this model is built on faith. In the beginning, 25 years ago, it had to be built on faith because we didn't have that many attendees that had been successful. I naively thought, and I'm a lot of things, guys, but naive, I've never been described as naive, but I naively thought that I turned to $800 and I didn't go to one of those great schools that you got, I flunked out of university. I went and if I can do it, and we were even going to do an infomercial at the time, because infomercials were hot back early 90s, through the 90s, and we were going to do an infomercial with one of my class serving Life for Murder, who was one of my guys that I hung with. That's the closest I ever hung. And said, Danny decided against, because I see down the road, well, that's going to be on TV or fucking, I didn't even know about the internet forever. And me standing outside his cell, I mean, they're going to forget who's in the cell. Was it him or me? So I decided not to flex. But it is. Ray Kroc was a human. And virtually all the icons that you're going to study fall into his category, or they're at least at his end. Okay, you also saw, what else? Trump, the kid Trump, okay? Now, I assume, was anybody in this room, and this is an embarrassing question, it's not meant to be embarrassing, raised like little Trump? My kids were not quite as spoiled, but clearly at that end, clearly. It's a different world. Our daughter, when she was about 12 or 13, said, well, I realized starving, and I'm not saying that she didn't mean it harsh across. I chose to have a question.
Yeah, just my takeaway. When you realize that there's parents out there, instead of loading a bunch of baggage on their children, but actually fueling their success and ambition, then it's very obvious why the rich become richer.
Yeah, there's what I feel not sorry for, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, Sorbonne, they figured this out hundreds of years. You put rich people together and they only rub elbows with, I don't mean Corona elbow like that, and they only rub elbows, they're likely to breed with rich people. And whereas a couple of you went to all right schools, but most of you didn't go to any school, or they went to a shit. Getting 2 master's degrees from a shit school isn't the same as getting one bad little degree from Oxford. I hope you understand that, right? Okay, so most of it, although we've had Oxford dons and Cambridge, but now, since if Oxford goes electronics, Harvard has already decided. Oxford degree is going to have an asterisk by it, and I assure you, the city guys in the city that are picking these guys to interview, when they see a guy that went to London School of Economics and he was actually there, as opposed to Oxford online, I can tell you categorically who they're going to pick. You won't even get into the interviewing process. Takeaways about Trump's kid. Yes.
He was living like a king on that whole floor on that Trump's tower, and his mom was taking care of him. They didn't use nannies, so she was devoted to bring to her son. And
well, I mean, one parent should be the loving and nourishing. Some of you didn't have. None of you, some kids grow up with no loving. Normally, it's the mom and the dad works, and that's how the model is. And for those of you, and I've said this countless times, for those of you that think that one parent can raise a kid, what drugs are you taking? Give me some of that so I can get high. And they always show, well, here's one black or brown or yellow mom that raised the kids. And they're an anomaly. The other 19 billion of them didn't do that. You also saw the thing about personal development scam, which is one of my faves. It's a never-ending bottle or tit to suck on. It's a never-ending tit to suck. One of the reasons I decided more than 10 years ago to give all my product away is because my product was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 most expensive online. Because I said, well, if this dipshit, he raised $1 million 26 years ago, can charge $2,500, shit, I ought to charge 50 grand. And so we went from the most expensive product to free, because I wanted to take the last excuse kids had, because I haven't had it work in 35 years. And yet they still don't do it, because the real reason, and I didn't understand I didn't understand how important the emotion, because I was raised, I thought everybody had self-esteem. What do I know? I'm just a little kid from East LA. How wrong I was. Virtually nobody has self-esteem. And because self-esteem team's built the first 7 or 8 years. I mean, I've never met the young Trump, but I bet he looks arrogant, blessed, because his role model is who? His dad, who is a cocky prick. But my role model, not economically, was a superhero. He looked like a superhero, he acted like a superhero, and he never disappointed. Most of your parents, talk about fathers, you can't find where you were proud of. Remember those questions? What's the highest performance thing your parents did? What's the highest performance thing your slag partner did? What's the highest performance? Remember those questions? Your answers are pathetic. So if that's your model, the fact that you're here is a miracle. DJ, can you give me a bottle of water? It's a miracle. All my dad was, he did, but all the things that he did were life-saving and life-threatening, just like in the superhero. What was the other thing you saw? Tyson? Oh, some of you, well, nobody in this room will ever ride that bike. I can already tell you that. I'll bet £1 million. Why do I know that? Because I've had thousands of people try. Smarter, more athletic, more agile, better than you. Now, if you were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, I would make that, because almost all the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds can do it. But the challenge, and that's why engineers, accountants, lawyers, etc., have it harder, because they've learned sequential learning, and riding that bike isn't sequential, and QLA is not. Okay.